What's up, my peeps? Thanks for coming back. Share 411, guys. This is Alex. Hopefully everybody's having a great weekend out there, guys. As you can see, I'm in one of my favorite places, which is always the outdoors. And I like to chill in these places, guys. This is very relaxing for me when I come to the outdoors, when I come to the patios, parks, anything that has to do with nature, guys. Well, guys, it's the weekend. Hopefully everybody's making money out there. Hopefully everybody is saved from Friday the 13th, guys. But I got a good story for you guys, and I wanted to share it on the weekends so you guys can squeeze it, you guys can listen to it, you guys can watch it. There's a lot of info in this story, guys. And this is the story that Bloomberg Technologies came out yesterday with. And this is where they're interviewing the CEO from Uber, okay? And they're asking him, how does he feel on his 2-year anniversary with Uber, all right? So, after this video, I might attach another video with the whole interview. And I want you guys to take some time. It's 26 minutes long. And I need you guys to take those 26 minutes and listen to it. Watch it. It's a lot of info out there, guys. This lady that is doing the interview threw some good punches to him, took a lot of stuff through him. And this guy, you can see that he's so frustrated every time this lady's asking all these questions to him. But he doesn't have no choice, right? He needs to answer. He's in front of the cameras, so he needs to spit everything out. He talks about where Uber's gonna be in the next 5 years. He also says where he's planning to take Uber in the next 10 years, guys. He's also talking about AB5, what he's offering to the drivers, what benefits he's trying to put out there for us, a lot of stuff. Now, it also talks about working overseas with different companies. He's talking about, in some of the parts that he talks about working with buses on Cairo and only charging them $1 or probably less than that for a full ride. Now, if you guys just listen what I just said, less than $1 for a full ride from A to B. Imagine what this guy is planning to do with us, right? And of course, this is overseas. It's a different market. It's a totally different atmosphere. But hey, Cairo, to me, Cairo has a lot of money, a lot of tourist people going in there. So why is this guy gonna kill the whole industry with charging less than $1? But hey, all the info is there. Go watch the video. Like I said, lots of info, guys, lots of info. And you guys gonna see how this guy gets so frustrated with some of the questions that this lady just throws out to him. She's throwing left and right punches to him. But hey, besides that, guys, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Ring the little bell so you guys can know when I upload the next video. And don't forget to thumbs up the video, guys. That helps a lot to the channel, okay? Please do so. Like I said, have a great weekend, guys, and I see you guys on the next video.
Dara, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I guess
great.
I should say happy Uberversary.
Thank you. My second Uberversary here.
That is what you call
It's
it.
been quite a 2 years. It's been very action-packed.
So, rumor has it you're not a fan of the helium balloons that employees have traditionally gotten on their hiring anniversary. So, should we assume you did not get a balloon?
I have
to
not
celebrate?
gone a balloon. I've gone a sticker from Nelson, our CFO. So, he got me a sticker this morning. I was very happy
All
about
right,
it.
a sticker and a pat on the back.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, it's been a long 2 years. 2 years ago, it was announced that you would be replacing
Yes.
former CEO Travis Kalanick. And even you've admitted you were the unlikely, dark horse, even accidental choice. So, 2 years later, did they make the right choice And did you make the right choice?
I know I made the right choice, and I hope that they made the right choice. I'm confident that they did. You can never prepare yourself for a job like this, and Uber is a once-in-a-generation company. But it's been a great 2 years for us. We have resolved all of the governance conflicts that the company had. There were many legal issues that the company was involved with as well. We got SoftBank in as a partner, and you want SoftBank to be behind you and a big partner and a big investor. And we have a great investor base. We've taken the company public, and the company revenue, gross bookings have grown 75% since I joined. We now have a path to profitability, I believe. So while we've had bumps on the road, and every adventure has bumps on the road, I like where we are, and I especially like the position that we're in now for the next years.
There have been bumps on the road, and despite all the negative stories, Uber, Lyft, ride-sharing companies have been transformational. The big question for you is, can Uber be as transformational over the next decade as it has been over the last decade?
I think so. I mean, really what Uber has done is brought transportation and opportunity at this point to what we believe is a small segment of population. Listen, we've got over 4 million driver partners all over the world, which is a huge number, and it's unparalleled. But we want Uber to be available to everybody. And what we're doing now is going into the next step of introducing other transportation choices to Uber. We've always gone with pool, but for example, we're testing buses in Cairo now to even bring the price of Uber down to the next level, $1, $1.50, etc. We're introducing bikes and scooters for personal electric mobility, so that essentially any way that you want to get around your city, we're going to be there for you. It'll be mostly Uber goods, but we'll also have other third parties such as transit, such as one of our partners, Lime, as well. Any way you want to get around, we want Uber to be there. And if you want food, if you want even local commerce, which I think we will power, Uber Eats and some of our other services will be there for you as well.
So I guess the question is, can Uber be so transformational and stop losing money? I mean, the prices sound very attractive, but can you create a good business where the rides are $1, $1.50?
Yes. So we are taking our rideshare business. Our CFO talked about it, Nelson, this last quarter. If you look at our rideshare business, it covered our overhead less about $100 million. And so the rideshare business itself is turning quite profitable, and we believe that the profits of the rideshare business not only are going to grow top line, but we believe that you're going to grow bottom line as well. And then there are other businesses, Eats, autonomous, freight, etc. These are extraordinary opportunities that we're funding, but I do believe that we're going to prove to our investors that we can take, on a serial basis, big parts of our business, turn them profitable, use those parts of our business to fund investments in other areas.
Still, there are execution issues. You just had your biggest quarterly loss ever, $5.2 billion. The stock has been trading below its IPO price much more often than not. Investors seem to love shorting it. You've got hiring freezes on various teams. You've fired or at least some of your top hires have left. So you said that you believe Uber can be profitable, but how confident and how quickly can Uber be profitable? How confident are you that Uber can be profitable, and how quickly?
Yeah, I'm very confident. So I think the losses that we reported, it was a $5 billion loss from an accounting perspective. If you live in accounting world, that's a big loss. I live in the real world. And actually in the real world, our EBITDA losses, 656, were lower than Q1, and we're on a good path in terms of our EBITDA losses as well. But you're absolutely right. None of this is going to be easy. All of this is going to take excellent execution from all of our teams, marketing, technology, etc. And we are going to be demanding our employees to be doing even more with less and to execute incredibly effectively in order for us to grow the top line and the bottom line as well.
So is pricing the main lever that you pull to profitability, or are there other drivers?
Scale. It's getting big when you've got over 1 billion rides per quarter and you've got trips growing at 35% on a year-on-year basis. We think we can use technology to be much more efficient. For example, instead of now you're having to email a call center agent or call a call center agent if you have issues, you can just do it in the app. These are technology innovations that allow customers to have a better experience, and at the same time they bring down costs. So the combination of growing top line still over 30%, technology innovation to delight the customer and take costs down at the same time, and then good old-fashioned efficiency, making sure that our corporate costs don't grow as fast as our revenue. All of those together give you a formula to get to profitability.
So Uber's market cap is now 50-some billion dollars. There was talk it could be $120 billion. Your compensation is in part tied to that. Can you still get there?
I believe we can. Short term, listen, right now, short term, there's nothing that we can do about the stock price. There's an old saying that short term, the stock market is a voting machine. Long term, it's a weighing machine. I am very confident that this team can execute and create a very heavy company that can never be denied.
So when? How long does it take to get there?
I think it's in the next couple of quarters are going to show a roadmap to investors. But it will take years. This is not a short-term game, but I believe that we can demonstrate progress. For example, I talked about our revenue, our adjusted net revenue growth accelerating in the second half of the year. Usually companies like ours, you don't see revenue growth accelerate, but I talked about our revenue growth accelerating in the second half of the year beyond 30%. And we've always been consistent in saying that the bottom line, EBITDA, will continue to develop in a positive manner.
There's a lot going on politically. There's a lot
Sure.
going on economically. Much of Uber's public backlash, it seems like almost the beginning was when Travis Kalanick joined a Trump Business Council, which he later dropped off of, but some of that backlash has lingered. What is your relationship with President Trump and Uber's relationship with the Trump administration?
I don't have a particular relationship with President Trump. I think the only relationship is we both tweet once in a while, he much more than I. And listen, we have a significant number of our driver partners are immigrants. I come from an immigrant family. I think that is, I was lucky enough to come to this country when immigrants were welcome. I think immigrants can be a force for good. And so there are many policies in which we disagree with the president, but we don't have a dialogue, so to speak, one way or the other.
We're in the midst of escalating trade tensions. How exposed is Uber if the economy falters?
Our company is much more tied into the consumer. And the consumer right now in the U.S. is very strong. We're a very global company. The majority of our transactions actually are outside of the U.S. So we really look at global growth. To the extent that global growth slows down, that could be a negative for us. Although if global growth slows down, we're going to have more driver partners also wanting to come onto the platform because we expose very, very flexible labor opportunities. So I do think that the growth of the company is such that we're going to be relatively resistant to any macro slowdown, and we're certainly not seeing any slowdown with the U.S. consumer as of yet.
So what's plan B? If we're in a full-blown trade war?
Yeah.
We've heard about investing in Vietnam or Brazil. What is, what's the backup plan?
We're an asset-light company, right? So we don't actually have to go out and buy cars, et cetera. We'll obviously be wary and make sure that our driver partners can source vehicles in an economical way. Many of them source vehicles through the second hand. They'll source used vehicles, so to speak. So I don't think this trade war, we certainly haven't felt it, unless in very small parts of the business where we're importing bikes, for example, there's some additional expense there. But it's not having a material effect on the company, and we're very confident of our growth over the next few quarters, trade war or no trade war.
So you've got a food delivery business, a trucking business, e-bikes, scooters, buses, self-driving cars, flying cars, food delivery, Uber Health.
Transportation of every kind.
You've asked the public to think about Uber like the Amazon of transportation, but Amazon was an online bookstore for a very long time before they started doing all this other stuff. What if now isn't the right time to do this other stuff, and that now is the right time to focus on the core, ride sharing and maybe some food delivery?
Well, we've been in the ride sharing business for a long time as well, and that business is absolutely developing, and its profitability is developing. We're the top player in every single market in which we compete in, and generally we're either holding share or taking share in those marketplaces. So we have a core business that provides the framework for us to build multi-billion-dollar opportunities, and I think it'll be criminal if we don't take advantage of that. You are seeing more and more apps and companies that are building ecosystems. Super apps, so to speak, especially in the East, for example, in China. We believe
you've got
that
Grab trying to do a super app, Tencent, of course, with Weibo. Is that a way to think
Listen,
about
the super
Uber
apps are winning.
The future?
Yeah, the super apps are winning, and we can be the super app of transportation, so to speak, that allows us to acquire customers at much cheaper rates than our competitors. It allows us to keep customers because we have a deeper relationship with them. And we think long term, if you can acquire customers and keep them longer, that's just the winning formula.
Uber Eats is what, 20, 30% of the business now?
Yes, and growing very quickly in the last quarter. Bookings grew over 90% on a year-on-year basis. We're the largest global player out there. And we continue, and the category of food, we believe, can be as large or even larger than the ride-sharing category. So we love that business and we continue to invest in it.
So there are so many competitors that do exactly what you do in this market and in other markets. What if you're just subsidizing our meals and you don't win the market share and this is just a giant hungry money pit?
So early on, I think people could have accused the rides business of the same. It turns out that the rides business, you see it with ourselves, you see it with Lyft, et cetera, it is moving towards a path of profitability. As you build these businesses, when the potential is so big, there is some subsidization that goes into the marketplace in order to create efficiencies. You need to get eaters, you need to get couriers, you need to sign up restaurants, and there's investment that's required early on. Is there competition? Absolutely. But there's always going to be competition in big categories. We have the advantage because we have hundreds of millions of consumers on the ride side that we can essentially introduce to our brand and let them know that there's more to Uber than just riding, but there's eating and other areas that you can enjoy.
Some of the businesses it seems like we hear less about, like scooters, for example. Haven't heard a lot about scooters lately. What's the likelihood you do pull out of some of these businesses?
Every business is going to have to execute and carry its weight, so to speak. We're a big believer in micromobility. It's in the early days. We believe in electric bikes. We believe in electric scooters. And increasingly, I think the mayors of the large cities all around the world are going to want to be interested in ways of moving people around that don't pollute, that don't create traffic, and we believe micromobility can be part of the solution. So is it an investment? Absolutely. Is there a business opportunity? Yes. But it's also aligned with the interest of the cities of the world, and we want to be aligned with the cities in which we operate.
Would you curtail international expansion in the short term?
Every part of our business has to fight for money, and if they're not deserving money, they're not going to get it. So believe me, internally, there's lots of creative destruction, there's lots of competition, and if one part of our business isn't carrying its own weight, we will pull back. Listen, we pulled back out of China, and we turned what was a $2 billion investment in cash into what can be a $10+ billion stake in Didi, which is a very big ride-sharing business in China as well. So we are, in the end, we're looking to build a business. We want to build a business the right way. We want to build a business in alignment with our driver partner society, et cetera. But if something's not working, we believe we've demonstrated the financial discipline to make the right call at the right time.
Driver protests are not unusual.
No.
When we last visited, there was a driver protest outside. Democratic presidential candidate Pete Buttigieg was out there with him. He said, gig is another word. Gig is another word for jobs. That means you're a worker and you ought to be protected as a worker. There is support for legislation that would force companies like Uber that rely on contract drivers and delivery people to make them full-time. Why shouldn't they be full-time?
Because they don't want to be full-time.
Well, some do.
Some do. More than half of our drivers in the U.S., for example, drive less than 10 hours with us a week. And listen, right now California has a historic opportunity. We're at the table, we are having these discussions, and we want to get to a solution. We're offering $21 minimum an hour when you're driving on the platform. We're offering benefits, and we're offering a voice as far as how you're going to be treated going forward. It's $21 an hour compared to $12 an hour minimum wage. Okay, this is real money, and these are real rights, and you get the flexibility that every single Uber driver or courier wants because they can come into the market when they want to or out. This is a historic opportunity to, I think, revolutionize the gig economy, and I don't think gig is a type of work. To say that there's only one way to work and everyone needs to be full-time, et cetera, I don't think that's correct, because it takes away flexibility, and flexibility is absolutely something that all of our drivers prize.
And can you give them flexibility and give drivers and riders safety at the same time?
If the legislatures, works in the interest of making something happen, absolutely. And you know that we're making very significant investments in safety as far as the safety center, tracking your ride, et cetera. And we believe that we are the leader in safety as far as transportation goes in the world, and we'll continue to invest very aggressively there.
As the stock is down, drivers are picketing outside, the press is writing about helium balloons. How do you stay focused on the long term?
You put your head down and you work, and you know that this is a once-in-a-generation company that's going to change how people access opportunity and how people move. The work that we're doing is really important. Everyone is going to look at the short-term price. It's part of being a public company, and people have worked really, really hard, and the equity is a representation of their work. But I think the people here understand that if they keep innovating, if they keep working hard, the rewards will absolutely come. You can't control the timing, but you absolutely can control the outcome.
So we're going to talk a little bit more about the future, but before we go there, I want to talk a little bit more about the past. The Uber you took over had some toxic cultural issues, illegal payoffs to police officers, violence, sexual assaults, even murder on the platform, angry taxi drivers, and a management team that turned a blind eye to much of it in the name of growth at all costs, so-called brilliant jerks, if you will. And yet there are some people who say that leadership was bolder, brasher, bigger thinking, maybe better. How do you respond to that?
I think time will tell. And I think that you need different kinds of management for different times in the development of a company. Listen, every management has their faults. I've got my faults, and every management team at the time has their faults. But the fact is, they built a great company, and now they've handed it to me, and I've got to take that great company and make it even greater. I think I'm up for the job, and while they made their mistakes, the fact is that they built a great brand that had weaknesses and has incredible strengths. It's my job to take it to the next level.
Anthony Levandowski, the guy who ran the trucking business that Uber bought, was just charged with stealing self-driving technology from Google, stealing trade secrets. What do you make of those charges?
I wasn't here when we brought Anthony on board. But what I do know is that we went to incredible depths to make sure that any information that Anthony might have acquired from Google, and it sure looked like he did, didn't make it over to our company. That was our responsibility, and I think we were incredibly diligent in making sure that we were not guilty of anything that could be nefarious one way or the other. We think that when you build, you got to build the right way. Anthony's an incredibly talented person. It didn't work out, but I do think that we did the right thing within these walls.
Now, the person who was here and spearheaded that acquisition, and which might cost Uber $100 million and has already cost some credibility, is still on the board, Travis Kalanick. I asked you this on IPO day, but I feel like I have to ask it again. Do you question Travis's position on the board?
I think that I am going to live in the here and now. Travis has an incredible amount of historical knowledge about the company. He's incredibly bright, as are our other board members, and I use him at the board. He's a very strong advisor, and his background of the company is incredibly useful, and I think he's supportive. Ultimately now we're a public company, and the shareholders are going to get to pick their own board, and that governance process will take care of itself going forward.
So you talk to him often?
I talk to him usually during board meetings and once in a while offline, absolutely.
But he's on the board for now?
He's on the board for now, and he's going to be on the board tomorrow.
So let's talk about the future then. To those who say that Uber is a ride-sharing and food delivery company, what is Uber's next big idea?
I think that the ideas that we have right now in this building are plenty big ideas. We've got ride-sharing, we've got food delivery, we've got micromobility, we've got autonomous, we've got freight revolutionizing how truckers move around and how shippers ship product all over the world. We've got Elevate as well. We have an enormous number of big ideas, and now it's execution time.
So where do you think most of the technological innovation is happening at Uber?
It is happening all over. What's unique about our business is that we are a combination of the digital and the physical, and the two coming together in unique ways. So we have very interesting, for example, machine learning algorithms that are looking at supply and demand, live supply and demand in a city what riders are looking for and where they're located, and then giving our drivers guidelines as to where to go in order to meet that demand. This matching of supply and demand in a dynamic way, and the pricing that we have, is something that's unique. We continue to innovate there, and then we innovate in very, very different spots such as Elevate as to how we can bring together different modes of transportation and tie them together, walking, driving, to helicopter, for example, now to JFK.
So you're in charge of not just visualizing the future of transportation, but trying to get there and create that future. When you look into the future, what does the future of transportation look like? I mean, obviously you have Google and Tesla and traditional automakers and flying cars and helicopters, as you say. How is this all going to come together and be different?
Well, we think we can bring it together. I believe that we can have that singular app where every morning when you wake up, any way that you want to get from point A to point B, we can give you the information that is relevant to you with live pricing, inventory, etc. We now have mass transit in the app. So we're going to tell you mass transit, you can take a subway, you can take a bus, you can take an Uber, you can take a pool, and if it's a long enough trip, you can take an Elevate as well. We are uniquely positioned as a company to have all that information together, and we can do the same thing for transportation, we can do the same thing for local commerce, and with Eats, restaurants are only the beginning, and we can do the same thing for logistics. No other company in the world is positioned to solve local transportation, local commerce, and logistics as well, and I think we're in a spearhead position to do so.
So where's Uber in 5 years? Start there.
A lot bigger than we are today.
10 years.
I can't even, I'll tell you, there's so much innovation and so much change going on that I'd have a hard time predicting for you what's going to happen in the next year, right? But I do think that what you will see us is increasingly going into multimodal modes of transportation. We are going to open up our marketplace to third-party transportation providers because we're not going to do it all ourselves. I think we're going to be much deeper partners with the cities in which we operate. We want to bring demand to public transit as well. We're going to have a much better enterprise solution as well, both in terms of businesses and health. And what you will see with Eats is moving beyond the category of just restaurants, although that's a very, very big category, into other categories of commerce as well. It's going to be a pretty exciting time, not just for the next year or 5 years, but for the next 10 years here. And it's really up to the teams here. It's my job to bring together the talent who can help me envision that 10-year future.
And do all the drivers who work for you now, do they have jobs? Do they have different jobs?
It depends. There are some drivers, especially outside of the U.S., we have drivers who tend to drive more full-time. Now, flexible full-time. They'll drive in the mornings, evenings, etc., but they tend to put in 40-plus hour weeks with us. The majority of drivers in the U.S. tend to work part-time. It may be an older person who wants some company. It may be a student who's looking to pay off his or her loans, or maybe someone who just needs a side gig. So it's amazing. When you have over 4 million people on your platform, the motivations of each individual can vary greatly, and we have built a platform that can serve someone who's looking for work in India equally as well as someone who's looking for work in New York City.
And does the future of profitability depend on self-driving car technology, the advent of self-driving car technology, or are those two things separate?
I think we can get to profitability before self-driving, for example, becomes the majority of trips. But I think that if you look forward and if you want to bring safety on the road, increase it, because the number of people who die in accidents in the U.S. and abroad, there's just no reason to have that many people hurt. Most accidents are caused by human error. And we can avoid that. We can avoid that with computers and technologies, and at the same time, we can take the cost per mile down pretty significantly. So fast forward 10, 15 years from now, autonomous is going to be a huge part of how people get around. It'll be cheaper, it'll be safer. Why not invest now to make that happen?
But can you get to profitability without self-driving technology?
15 years from now, no. Any transportation company that doesn't have self-driving as part of its strategy, and that's why we have ATG. We can build out our self-driving technology specifically to serve our network, and that's a huge advantage that we have. But any company 15 years from now that's in the transportation space that doesn't have strong self-driving strategy, whether they build it themselves or they work with someone, isn't going to be around for long.
So I know I'm asking you to think big picture now, but in the history of Silicon Valley, in the Uber pantheon, how are we going to look back on today, your 2-year Uberversary?
You'll say that every great company has to go through tough times. You look at Facebook, you look at Amazon even 5 years after their IPO, all of them went through periods where companies are tested. This is the moment where the mettle of Uber is tested, and I'm very confident that we're going to come out of this stronger than we ever have been before.